Now, warm sunshine, daffodils, it really is the first day of spring. And for the Liberal Democrats, a chance to frolic at their spring conference. Faced with the risk of electoral oblivion, they've promised a smattering of tax cuts with a pledge to increase the personal tax allowance to £12,500 a year by 2020. The Treasury Secretary, Danny Alexander, said the pledge would be included in their election manifesto. But will it help the worst off, or indeed the Lib Dems' popularity? Our political correspondent, Michael Crick, is in York. Well, Michael, can you answer that question for me?
Well, it must be the first Liberal Democrat spring conference in many years that hasn't been beset by either a big row on policy or a major scandal. But there are many reasons, nonetheless, for the Liberal Democrats to be gloomy. They're languishing in the polls, often behind UKIP. They face the possibility in May of losing all their Euro MPs and hundreds more councillors. And only this week in Nottingham, they had the humiliation of getting fewer votes in a council by-election than the Elvis candidate. But here in York, through tax cuts and Europe, they are forming a kind of strategy for electoral revival, they think. This is my report from a conference that seems surprisingly optimistic.
Nick Clegg taking an Oscar-style group selfie this afternoon. Though it's not a pretty picture for the Lib Dems right now, as they saw in Nottingham this week.
So, Mr. Clegg, you lost to Elvis this week. Now, Mr. Clegg, what do you make of losing to Elvis?
Microphone's in the way.
Losing to Elvis in Nottingham.
Yet they're upbeat with two big themes here. Only Lib Dems want to stay in Europe, they say. And equally contentious, they claim Lib Dems forced the Tories to agree tax cuts for the poor. And today their Treasury man pledged more.
And I can tell you that a top priority in any negotiation will be our aspiration to raise the personal allowance dramatically again in the next Parliament, to raise it to £12,500.
That's well above the £10,000 tax-free allowance, which comes in next month. But cocooned in this conference centre, you wouldn't think any of the horrors that have beset the Lib Dems during coalition had ever happened.
How are things looking for the Liberal Democrats at the moment?
Sunny.
Sunny?
Aye.
He's got a very optimistic disposition. Being a Liberal Democrat, you have to have.
So you're not really despondent, either of you?
No, I don't think there's anything to be despondent about.
You came behind Elvis in Nottingham last week.
We came behind Elvis in a ward where we hadn't even stood a candidate the previous time.
Linda Jack runs the Liberal Left Group.
Generally, I think the mood is always a lot more upbeat than I ever expect it to be.
Do you think people are right to be upbeat?
No, not at all. I just think we have to be real, and sometimes I feel, and maybe it's a little bit when you're in a club, isn't it? When you're with all your friends, everything seems fantastic, but actually when you step back from it and you think, you know, we really have got some serious issues that we have to deal with, and for me, that's about being true to our values. And we need to get back to what our core values are as Liberal Democrats.
It's a plain marten, it's not a ferret.
And tomorrow, Nick Clegg will do that, setting out in some detail why his party and Britain should stick with the EU. Michael Crick, Channel 4 News, York.